it's very interesting. When we think about this, there are so many support structures for religious beliefs around us that it's very difficult to swim against the stream. And if you don't have any religious beliefs, you don't have any support structure until it has been discovered recently in Scandinavia. And I'm increasingly amazed by my friends in Finland, where I grew up, who are utterly, shall I say, a-religious. They are not interested in religion. They are not negative about religion. They are just simply utterly indifferent. Even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I was still able to get a good conversation going on about religion, but not anymore. And I wonder, David, you were suggesting that there might be a religion that's not religion at all. And I think that it is in the making. I think it's qualitatively different. I completely disagree with Harvey Cox, for example, who says that no, religion is just change in form. No, I think that there is something, qualitatively new coming up. And I wonder if we have strong support systems for non-belief or non-structured religious thinking, or non-religious thinking, rather, would that really thrive? What would happen to it? I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just making that fundamental point that the non-religion religion might be coming back.
Well, there's, what's I going to say there? I mean, Jarmo, it just occurred to me that a number of years ago, you were saying it would be good if we could get this Jesus seminar in Europe and to jumpstart it. And I actually think it hasn't taken off in Europe, one, because they really have crossed that kind of Rubicon, but also because the Jesus seminar here really did come out of the American experience of responding to American fundamentalism. So there's this kind of contextual character to it. I forgot.
That's 2 and 3 years ago, and things have changed. But
the other piece is that in this book I was reading the poem from David White, and his book on the 3 marriages. It's very interesting. You're reading along, and he invokes religious language from the Christian tradition. You read another chapter, and he brings up religious language from the Jewish tradition. Then he really brings up a whole boatload of language from Buddhism. And he just lets this play. I mean, he lets this discourse play, and I actually think that one of the things we have to attend to is the kind of multivalence that's going on in this discourse. There is a play of discourse now between religious language that, quite frankly, is going to change things. There are movements afoot in contemporary theology, even those that talk about God, it seems to me, that are quite helpful insofar as they reorient, they try to shift. I agree with David that there's a shadow side to that, as it were. But I also think that there's a play of discourses, including the mystical, that actually are kind of reshaping the trajectories of this discourse. And I think that's really quite open-ended.
Just to add another thought, sorry, before you start, just very quickly, because this is Theology Unplugged, one of the things that Don Cupid argues, which we shouldn't forget about him, is that the reason why Christianity, certainly in Europe, the European context, is dying is because it's so successful. It's so successful, it's secular society. It's emptied itself into secular society, so it's there in, this is going to be tough on an American audience, it's there in universal Medicare, because that's compassion for the poor. It's there in feminism, because that's the rights of people, half the population or more. And it's there in many of the things that mark so-called modern progress. In other words, Christianity has really worked well. It's emptied itself into the secular, and it's not needed anymore.
And actually, there's American historians like Eldon Eisenach, who taught at University of Tulsa, but who studied American religion, and his basic argument is similar to this, which is, where did the liberals go? All of these wonderful liberals who were ministers and theologians, their children became doctors and lawyers and social critics. And basically, I mean, his argument is that liberal theology poured itself into the secular, poured itself into civil society, and it was successful. The consequence, though, is that religious life, or much church life, is left to more conservative elements, right, who don't share that social vision. So it's a very interesting array.
Well, if I may just very quickly make a point here, because I think this is very important, that I think that there is a logical sequence from Enlightenment to secularism. And history proves that, it is entirely futile to fight against the inevitable. And I think we need to embrace those things that are inevitable, the embracing human Jesus, for example, things like that. So is the modern secular type of community, is that indeed just simply something natural and necessarily implied already in Enlightenment? I happen to think so.